Guys, it was good. I knew it was going to be the case. I knew my faith wasn't misplaced. I've sat with this series through 2 million plus words. I knew what they were capable of. I didn't lose hope. I mean, Valley 4 whispered in my ear like the devil, but I knew we were gonna make it out of the mud, and we have. The story for the end of Wuling was actually pretty good. There were stakes, the characters didn't feel one note, the enemies felt threatening to a strong force instead of just scientists and homeless people, and they were actually interesting to talk to. Well, Ardashir was. Neferth was kind of just there, I can't lie. But this update serves as the conclusion to the Wuling plot, and I was able to play it early before its release, which is thanks to Hypergriff for sponsoring this video. But this does seem like the end of the Wuling storyline. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in the upcoming patches we go around Wuling to hit up some other threads that have been left over, but at least it seems as though we've gone through a substantial amount of what there is for Wuling to offer, and the later quests may just be tying stuff off or helping to lead into the next region we'll go to, though we'll have to wait and see how that is in the future. But I wanted to make a short-lived video to talk about my thoughts on Wuling's story in its current state. Basically, just saying my thoughts on if Enfield's story has gotten better. Because I've said multiple times over, from my time of playing the playtest, that Valley 4's story is boring, Wuling is where Enfield gets good. Now that we've seen more of Wuling, does this hold up? And the answer is, yep. I am very happy with how the story's gone. Not to say it's at a generational level. If I'm using OG Arknights as an example, we're not getting like Babel, Lone Trail, Chapter 14, Chapter 15, Master's Travels levels of plot, but we're getting a solid Path of Life or Zwillingstrom level story. You know, genuinely, I could not have chosen a worse measure of how good a story is, because this is all entirely subjective, but I'm keeping this in because it works for me and I find it funny. But to talk about how the current story is, I don't want to go immediately into spoilers, as I'm sure there's some people who are interested in how the story got better, but don't want to be spoiled because if it sounds interesting, they want to experience it on their own. So at first, I'm going to talk in a general sense, avoiding spoilers and just discussing things that you can see in the trailers for these versions. Then I'm going to go into spoilers. But the updates I'm going to be talking about are going to be 1.1 and 1.2, mainly 1.2 as it has more meat on its bones comparatively. 1.1 is smaller. However, even with it being smaller, it did a good job at showing what I love when it comes to Arknights' story. That being how it shows the value of human life and the care it has for it. That's a pretty core theme for Arknights' story, and 1.1 held true to that. So to explain it in a general sense, the Chimbo Stockade ended up fighting against Wuling because of their bad blood, something that was foreshadowed a bit in 1.0. But because we already made friends with Chimbo Stockade and also Tong Tong, who is the chief of the stockade, though what feels like only in title, the answer to solving this wasn't as easy as just, oh, annihilate anyone who swings against Wuling. Instead, we see the cast try to aim for the most peaceful solution that's possible, trying their best not to just stop the upcoming war between the two factions, but also remedy the underlying ideology that the Stockaders have towards Wuling, and the discrimination the people of Wuling show the Stockaders. The way it's approached kind of reminds me of the later chapters and events of the Victoria arc in Arknights, but without going into spoilers, that was one of the really interesting parts of 1.1 for me. Anything more for 1.1 talk will be spoilers, so I'll sidestep that for now, and instead focus on 1.2, which there is something, or someone, I could talk about without spoilers. The 13th Sui sibling, Asterix. An asterisk that is heavily needed because of all the drama that has happened over this character. So, in case you don't know, in OG Arknights there are 12 Sui siblings. They're all part of the Greater Firmament Sui, basically a big-ass dragon. And a Firmament is like, imagine a god native to Terra, pretty much. But the siblings are fragments that all make up Sui. It was split into those siblings, and up till now, there's always just been 12. Thing is, they've been teased heavily as during every Chinese New Year, a new Sui sibling is released on a limited banner and a new story is released for them, continuing their overall plotline. Starting with Neon for Arknights' first ever limited banner. So they're definitely viewed to be really important to the community. As of now, we got 7 released, and the chance they pull up in Enfield, either mentioned or as ops, is non-zero because they don't have the lifespan of a regular person. So because of all this, people viewed them as sacred and were hoping any mention of them would lead to one of the siblings we already know of now. Only for discussions that happened before the 1.2 plot actually dropped to be centered around what we know as the 13th Sui proxy, a new sibling that was apparently never mentioned before. The response? Some people got mad at this. Full reasons as to why, not entirely sure. Maybe they felt as though it was a cheap add-on. Like throughout all of Arknights it's always been, there are 12 fragments of Sui, then out of nowhere a 13th drops. But the thing is, it was alluded to in Here People Sows. They literally bring up talk of creating the Heart of a Firmament, an artificial project they had. Pretty much a project to create a synthetic Firmament, using the powers of 3 of the Sui siblings, Neon, Dusk, and Shu. It was literally mentioned, and hell, look at the back of the CG. It's the heart. The same thing we see in the story. That's on top of Wuling itself just having a lot of similar locations to areas and here people sows. This was definitely planned and foreshadowed long in advance because it's been 2 years since the release of that event. But that's pretty much just the surface explanation. Thankfully, a thread on Twitter was made talking about all of this, and the person who made it went into even more depth, talking about how in IS-6 it was teased there was going to be a new sibling because there's 13 Tongbao and 12 of them are references to the current siblings, with the last one having the picture of the Fairnimid heart. Then how her design heavily takes after Neon Dusk and Shu, as they're the ones who made her. I can understand getting mad at this if there was no plot setup before this and the 13th sibling was kind of just thrown into the story, but if anything, this is just them continuing the plotline they've already started back in OG Arknights. Though the problem is, it just seems like not many people have read the Sui sibling storyline, which okay, I may be hanged for this, but I can't lie, it's kind of valid. I won't deny, Neon's event, if you could really call it that, Dusk's event, Ling's and Chongyu's, all pretty fucking boring. I'm sorry. I came in there wanting to see how the Sui siblings were, left those events with most of the Sui siblings having like 10 lines of dialogue, minus Chongyu's. I think they finally had some major plot relevance there. That was definitely a plot line I did not mess with too much, but if you wanted to know the lore about the new proxy, that's pretty much all that's needed for the rundown, though that's all the talk I can have that doesn't go into spoilers for these events. So now I will be talking about spoilers for both 1.1 and 1.2 for the rest of the video, so fair warning. But 1.2 put up something a hell of a lot more interesting, Ardashir. Granted, yeah, he was in 1.1, but mainly 1.2 is where he shines. Though he is deadass, by far the most interesting antagonist we got. Bone Crushers, unimportant goons that are going to be thrown away. Nefereth, motherfucker just seems genuinely annoyed by everything 24/7. If she stepped on a twig and it made a noise louder than 2 decibels, I bet she pounded dirt in anger. But Ardashir has gripped me in every scene he's been in. Pause. In particular, the conversation you have with him before fighting has been, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most interesting moments for dialogue in the entirety of Enfield. From everything we've heard Ardashir say, it appears to be the case that in the past, he and the Endmen did work together. They had plans and some deep connections. Maybe not just to Ardashir, but possibly the group he and Nefereth are a part of. Though he brings up over and over the idea that the Endman was betrayed in the past, or is currently being betrayed. He makes it seem like someone is throwing the Endman around like a pawn to do their bidding, but he never says who. It's just been the betrayals you suffered, the defeat, etc. But I mean, that could be Dijon, the Civilization Band, hell, maybe even Rhodes Island if we want to go full off into theory crafting that the Endman is a creation of Priestess. Could be the case that they're keeping the Endman on a short leash. Though the importance of this is that it makes the amnesia important. In quite literally, my last video, I talked about how the amnesia was handled at Enfield compared to Arknights, and it felt like it was lacking. It didn't feel important outside of Levitane's questline where we see it really affected the Endmen's mental. Literally that aside, it just felt like an excuse for Perlica to rant exposition, but now the story's planting the idea that we're a pawn doing whatever someone strings us along to, and the amnesia is blocking that truth from us. We've been told we've been betrayed, and the amnesia is most likely a byproduct of that, but we have no immediate resolution to fix this or save ourselves. It makes what Ardashir is saying incredibly interesting, as so far, it has felt like the Endman was thrown around the world as a band-aid to solve all these problems. But at the same time, Ardashir feels slimy enough to where it's hard to trust him. Like, okay, as a viewer, you expect some plot twist to happen. So if Enfield goes like, Ardashir was a good guy, you were being stringed along by the Civilization Band, you know, not too out there. It's a story, you know what to expect. Chekhov's gun and all that. But at the same time, he speaks in a way to where I listen to him and go like, okay, but it sounds like you're lying. Like, there's been a lot of games I've played that did similar plot lines, but I found it easy enough to trust the person trying to stop the betrayal because they seemed reasonable. Ardashir does not seem that way. He seems like a snake. And not because he's a literal snake. Like, during the conversation, you gotta wonder why he didn't lay the betrayal out flat. Like, okay, great bro. You could allude to what may happen or what may have happened in the past. Wonderful. Love that for you. But if you really want me to trust you, do something that can make me trust you. Not just say some shit that can be taken as highly manipulative, then go to obliterate a country afterwards. Like, I feel as though if you actually viewed the Endmen as an ally, winning them over would be your top priority. Because it would be like saving a friend who's brainwashed. Yet we see him prioritize the plan above everything whilst preaching that he's our biggest fan. And this is with us seeing times where he's chosen being a good person over the plan. Like telling Tong Tong's big bro that it isn't too late. He can back out of going to the springs and getting the power if he wants to just let go of his hate. So we see him do this, yet in the case of the Endmen, as they're using Sui's power to talk in their dreams, he doesn't really throw us a bone. Like, it seems that ends, and that's why I like it. It's interesting. There's something to talk about. Meanwhile, after he's gone, it just cuts back to Nefereth going like, I can finally go all out with my plan, and then like 15 minutes later, we turn her into dust. But then you look at Ardashir. He's been to both Terra and Talos too, speaks in an ancient tongue, and talks about taking the lives of his loved ones to extend his own because he's lived for more than 100 years, which, in case you don't know, long-lived people are a thing in Arknights. It's possible to be immortal, and there are some people in the story who are, like the Deathless Black Snake, who takes over people's bodies and uses that to remain alive, though other long-to-live don't really have to do as many workarounds. But I can't lie, he's the main reason I'm actually interested in the story going forward. Him and the group he's a part of actually feels like an end goal or major plot thread to pursue. Thinking on it, his conversation where he brings up the Aether side and the Foundation feels like the actual hook to the story, something that was missing prior. Because when it came to the beginning of it, we kind of just got launched into conflicts before solid footing was really established. It was, go here, this area is getting attacked. Okay, you helped this area. Oh shit, we're getting a Discord call. Okay, go here, this area is getting attacked. Before really setting up what the villain's goals are, they were shrouded in mystery. Compare that to OG Arknights, which the beginning chapters ain't exactly great, but early on you find a reunion's goal and see what they're doing to achieve it. So conflicts with them and times you talked about their goals felt more important, which we got now. We know there's something important with the Aether side, and whatever that is, the Endmen's past heavily ties into it. Which, also, just gonna take this time to brag real quick. You know who made a video talking about Aether side lore saying this shit's gonna be important to Endfield? Most likely me. I did that shit. Yo, just gotta take some credit. And also pray that the Aether side stuff is gonna deal with the collapses, because if not, oh boy, that video is gonna age like ass a little, I can't lie. But that's it with the Ardashir Glaze. I think he's a really well-written character and makes the villains, or what we think are the villains in the story, actually interesting. Aside from him though, I really like the supporting cast in Wuling, mainly Tong Tong and Mifu, but the entire ending sequence with Zhuang Fangyi actually got me a bit emotional, which was light and day from how I was with Valley 4, cause, let me tell you, if any enemy came in there and annihilated all the supporting cast of Valley 4, I'm talking obliterated them from the universe, there's only a handful I would have cared about, and that handful is Wolfguard and Rossi. Aside from them, I can live. But seeing Tong Tong grow into the role of a chief, not just a name but finally in actions, by taking control of the stockade after everything, and doing her best to stop the cycle of hate, either that being rooting at the people plotting the war where she can, or running off to help Wuling during the attack, it was really nice. And her saying that even though she loves Ran Yi and that'll never change, watching her call out his betrayal due to him being consumed by revenge, it was a really good moment. And that scene near the end of Zhuang Fangyi going out to sacrifice herself, the direction of it was perfect.
Just fulfilling my roles and performing my duties.
At least share your problems.
Are you sure there really isn't anything else I can help you with?
You shouldn't be doing this alone. I'm always here.
认证通过，最高权限，通道开启。
Told me to meet at the lab, but then you got a head start. Oh, that's why I decided to beat you to it. How long have you been waiting here? Not too long. Just arrived. What about you? Something happened? Why didn't you wait for me? I can do this on my own. You're lying. That's all right. I waited for you, and you're here with me. We do this together.
It's moments like this where I can look at Enfield and the freedom it has for expression in cutscenes due to it being a 3D game, and I have a lot of hope for its future. I think back to some of my favorite moments in OG Arknights and wonder just how much they would have been elevated with voice acting and scenes like this playing out. But these two updates have been the hook the story needed. I was willing to stick with it because, end of the day, it's Arknights. Something I've been playing before doing content creation at all. I'm invested in where the story goes. And now it's starting to feel like Enfield is able to stand on its own 2 feet. The world's getting more interesting and I'm invested in just whatever the hell is the Endman's past and whatever the hell's going on with the Foundation. This level of story is what I was hoping for. It's what I wish we got sooner, I can't lie. But I'm really happy with how the story's been and I can't wait to see how the next updates will improve it.